if you could all think of a moment in your career, maybe quite recently, maybe a little bit further back, where you felt like you were really exposed. And by that, what I mean is that there was a lot riding on you. There was a lot depending on you. Whatever role you were in, the production company was depending on you to deliver. Okay, so maybe it was a pitch, or maybe it was an aspect of production, or maybe it was about booking a certain contributor. But a moment in your career quite recently where it felt like a lot was riding on you. Can you just put your hand up if you've got that moment, so I know?
I'm really sorry, I missed that bit, Remy.
Yeah, a moment in your career, perhaps recently, where it felt like a lot was riding on you, like you were quite exposed. I had the honor of coaching a couple of trapeze artists. They were actually a partnership. They were partners, and they did acrobatics and trapeze work in all sorts of contexts. But where they felt most exposed was doing the high wire act. And it wasn't necessarily that it was the most dangerous thing. In fact, it was just walking along a wire, which they could do very easily at 2 feet. But if they did fall off the high wire, they would be very exposed, literally. And also, there was a lot of people looking up at them, and there was a lot of focus on them in that moment. So it wasn't necessarily the most dangerous thing they'd done, but it was where they felt most exposed. They were walking a high wire in front of thousands of people, and they felt quite exposed. They had to count on each other, but they also had to count on other people. So I just want to have you all think of a moment when you felt like you were walking that high wire, when you were doing that trapeze act at work. You all got a moment? So anyway, put your hand up if you don't have a moment yet where you're thinking of that you can relate to. Simone, you can't think of it. You can think of a moment. Okay, so great. So in that moment where a lot was riding on you, a lot was being counted on by other people on you to deliver, what would you say you were looking for from your teammates in that situation? And I don't mean the specifics of I needed them to write 2 lines of text, or I needed them to feed the auto cue, or I needed them to make a coffee. But in terms of the characteristics, the universal qualities that you needed from your teammates in that moment, what did you require of them? Anyone chip in, and I'd like to have everyone contribute something that they. So let's just maybe just
an understanding.
Understanding, yeah.
Support, yeah.
Support.
What else?
Patience.
Trust.
Trust. And who said trust? Trust, Dave. So what would it take for you to trust? I mean, trust is absolutely fundamental to this, but what would we all say is required in order to give that trust? Because yes, if you're doing that high wire act, right, like my clients, you do need to trust the people holding the safety net. Because if you fall and they're not there, you could literally die. Now, we're all working in TV because we love the camaraderie and the teams and the supporting each other and the trust. But what would it take to give that trust in those moments where where everyone's counting on you, and you have people who you are counting on? What would it take for you to trust someone, Dave?
I guess it's to know that they do what they say they're going to do, and they can deliver. I'm relying on them to do their bit for the whole thing to work.
Yeah. So you just articulated it probably perfectly. To know they will do what they say they'll do. Yeah.
Yeah.
To know they'll do what they'll say they'll do. So if you say, be there at 5 o'clock at the stage entrance, you know they'll be there at 5 o'clock at the stage door. What are the other aspects of trust before we go on maybe to some of the other qualities that you would rely on?
Consistency.
Consistency. So consistency, when it comes to this, is about doing what they say they'll do always, right? Because like if they do what they say they'll do some of the time, that doesn't really give you the reassurance you need in those moments. Like for my clients, someone who holds the safety net mostly isn't really very helpful, right? I mean, I mostly hold the safety net. Sometimes I might not, right? I mean, okay, so there's a 90% chance I'll die, or if I fall, I'll die.
Rems,
So-
there's a few ones in the, sorry, can I shout a few ones out that are coming in the chat as well? We've
Yeah.
got support, respect, and understanding. We've got honesty and be their word. So Emma was saying support, respect, and understanding. Sidra's saying honesty and to be their word. And Jacqueline's saying be direct and clear.
So to know that they'll do what they say they'll do is really important, and consistency around that. How about timing? Because to know they say to know that they'll do what they say they'll do is important, but I would like to add that to know that they do that they'll do what they say they do when they say they'll do it,
Yeah,
Right.
rather than at the end.
or whenever time. Like I'm holding the safety net. I wasn't holding the safety net while you were doing your high wire act, but I was holding the safety net. That's not very helpful, right? So to know that they will do what they say they'll do when they say they'll do it, I would say is really important part of that ingredient. And someone then added to that consistency, which is about always, right? Not sometimes. Respect, understanding, honesty.
Be available.
So for who said respect? Who said respect?
It was Emma, is poorly.
Oh God, okay. So respect, understanding, and honesty, if those are important for you, would you say sometimes? Like, so if I show you respect and understanding and honesty, support, patience, Jay, sometimes, is that enough? Most of the time?
No, it's not. It needs to be consistent.
So consistency really means always, I guess, right?
Yes, yes.
And I think Dee has something to add.
I would say transparency, because when somebody is transparent, you can even if they can't deliver something, you know what measures you can put in place to mitigate that. So if you have the full picture, you can help the situation. If you don't have all the information, you can
Totally hear what you're saying. And I think, Dee, that there's a way of flipping around what Dave said to fit what you're saying. So Dave said, to know that they will do what they say they'll do. And we added to that, to know that they will do what they say they'll do when they say they'll do it. And we added to that always, right? So to know that they'll do what they'll say they'll do when they say they'll do it always is a form of trust. And what you're adding to that is to know that they will say when they can't do something, when they say they'll do it always. Not like after they didn't do it, but in time, right? So that transparency is about being honest and open about what you can't do. Because you can be in 100% integrity. You can be in total integrity with yourself and your partners at work and at home by saying, I can't do something. Being in integrity isn't about saying, I will do what you want me to do when you want me to do it always. It's about saying, I will do what I say I'll do when I say I'll do it always, except when my son's school calls me on my phone and I have to get it. or when I have to do something that takes priority, which might be one of these three things, because transparency is really important. And I need to know that you have a priority to your child or to your mother or to whatever it might be, so that I can factor that into my plans. Like, we can 100% count on Dee, except in this situation, which she's alerted me to, and she's going to give me the heads up if that happens. It's still about being your word when you say you can't do something. Being your word is about doing what you say you'll do when you say you'll do it always, but it's also about saying what you can't do when you say you can't do it, and letting me know. So that's a great catch. Thank you for that, Dee. What else?
Oh, sorry, Sufyan added in chat. Where's the chat?
I wonder if people could just add what they add in, because it's really helpful.
Yeah, Sufyan, do you want to just share?
I said to be able to speak in confidence if needed.
Yeah, so that's about knowing that you'll keep your word, which means if I say, can I speak to you in confidence? And you say yes, and I say total confidence, which means no one, and you say yes, that I can count on you. That's being your word. And by the way, if you were to say to me, I can't keep it in total confidence because I have a contract with my partner where I tell them everything, or I have, there's a conflict, then that's also being your word. So being your word is it works the way that Dave described, and it also works the way that Dee described. And in your context of being able to keep something in confidence, you don't have to say I will keep something in confidence to be your word. You can also say I can't, which is also being your word. But what you can't do is say I'll keep it in confidence and then not keep it in confidence. Right? So yeah, does that cover your proviso about that, or was there something I missed? Can't hear you, Sufyan.
Yeah, it does. I meant like if it's referring to your SP or your exec or your senior. So yeah, it did.
Yeah, so if you say something to someone else, saying who you shouldn't tell, I mean, I think it becomes very hard when it's like you can tell this person but not that person, because if I tell that person, they might tell someone else. I think in confidence is always better to say, tell no one, rather than just tell these three people, because you know what it's like in teams. If you say, well, you can tell Joe, John, and Adam, but you can't tell Sarah, Emma, and Lucy, it just gets all very complicated. Whereas if you say, will you keep this between us, that's very straightforward and easily fact checkable. But I agree. Those are all, everything that everyone has added is a really important ingredient to what it would take for you or me to trust somebody in a situation which was our version of walking a tightrope. And not every situation is walking a tightrope, but it's still important to have total respect all the time, total support all the time, patience as much as possible, and to know that the people who you work with can be counted on to be their word, which means do what they say they'll do, when they say they'll do it, and when they can't, to let you know. Doesn't mean all the time, but if they can't, let you know in plenty of time, so that there is that transparency that Dee was asking for, which means that you can then work around it. If someone says, I will be there at 5 o'clock at the stage door, and they don't tell you that unless my son needs picking up, then you count on them and you don't have a plan B. And then if they're not there, there's not a plan B to let your guest in at the stage door or whatever it might be. So all of the integrity amounts to being your word. This is an interesting conversation to be having with you, because all of you are here, right? You're here where you said you'll be when you said you'd be there. And most of you all know each other because we see each other here every month. And we have these conversations about distinctions, which are part of the Breakthrough Leaders program, and which are part of your commitment to being breakthrough leaders. Because like, if you do any course of work and you don't attend, how much can you say, you're a writer, you're a driver, you're a French speaker if you haven't attended the course. Breakthrough Leaders is partly about the work that we do together in this room where we share these distinctions. And I would say pretty much all of you, a couple of exceptions, have been at all of the Breakthrough Leaders sessions. And then there are people who don't show up. And that's because their commitment isn't there. Now, in some cases, that's to do with their employer, and it's to do with other situations that are, we can go into individually, but there are some people who say they'll be there and are not there. And TV is all about teams, and it's all about the extent to which we can trust people to be their word, to show up when they say they'll do it, and to let us know if they can't. So I want to come on to commitment in a moment, but I think being your word is a kind of fundamental underlying part of commitment. Because if I'm saying to you, I'm committed to being a PD on your show, or I'm committed to being an exec on your show, or I'm committed to delivering this show to your channel, or I'm committed to supporting you, whatever it is I'm saying in a work context, that commitment only has meaning if you tie it back to being my word. So when I say I'm committed to delivering this program, what it means is I am going to be my word. I'm going to do what I say I'll do when I said I'll do it. And if for whatever unknown reason I'm unable to, I'll be transparent and I'll let you know. Does anyone have anything to add to that kind of broad definition around what being committed means to you? Brilliant. So now, yeah.
No, I was just going to say that generally when you meet people, all you meet or all you get to know is their word, right? So when they're talking, that's all you've got is their word. So when you don't do what you say after a while, it kind of...
Blumenfeld. Oh.
Sorry.
No,
I'm with you.
I was just going to say after a while, what happens is that it kind of starts to damage. When you speak, people just start to not really believe, or, it starts damaging the listening, isn't it? When people... they say they're going to do something, they don't do it, they don't do it, they don't do it. And after a while, when they talk, you're just like, you know what? I don't want to hear. So it's so important because we had an incident yesterday where they say that your reputation is what they say about you when you're in the room, when you're not there. But that thing about being unreliable, that's the kind of thing that people will talk about and can kind of spread out. So the importance of saying I'm being your word, I just wanted to re-emphasize how important it was. And that's what comes up for me, that the damaging of listening, when I'm listening to somebody who keeps kind of letting me down.
Yeah, well, we've probably all had that, haven't we, at various times? And I wonder what it takes to diminish it. Is it one time? Like if we go back to the high wire act analogy, like if you're going to trust someone to hold the safety net while you're doing a high wire act, whatever your high wire act is that you were thinking of when I asked you to think of something, if you're going to trust someone to be in that position of confidence and trust, how many times does it take for them not to be their word, for you to not count on them? Like, is it once? Is it twice? Is it 3 times? I'm just curious. What does everyone think? Because what Simone is talking about is that when people are not their word, it diminishes their credibility, because you're not going to give them something responsible to do, whatever, you're not going to give them another show to make if they didn't make the show they said they'd make on time and on budget, right? So that's kind of a big example because hundreds of thousands of pounds are involved. But like, will you give someone another opportunity to be a PD if they let you down? They weren't their word. I'm just wondering, is it once? Is it twice? Is it 3 times? Dee?
I think it depends on the relationship. And I think it's multifactorial. It depends on other elements that have gone on. It might be that they may well have a valid reason as to letting you down the once, which you might waive. So I think it's not as black and white for me. I have to look at all the elements, everything that's gone on, and the actual degree of the relationship.
Yeah, I sort of agree a little bit with that, because like as a development producer, if I say, I want to deliver a format, but I've not been able to do it, Does that mean I'm unreliable?
Well, you're talking in very broad terms. To deliver a format or not. I mean, I think it's more important to look at the granular. Like, I'll come up with 3 ideas by Friday. I mean, so there are some things which are outside of your control, which is like whether or not someone thinks your ideas are good, right? That's another thing completely. That's another thing completely. That's the kind of thing that I was kind of talking about when I started this conversation with you, which is to say, there are plenty of things which are really outside of our control. Like in your example, Sidra, whether your EP or the person who owns your company thinks your format is good, that's kind of outside of your control. Whether you deliver the 3 ideas that you said you deliver by Friday when you said you deliver them, that is in your control. So all we can do is influence the things which are in our control. And by the way, this isn't just about us, it's also about who we work with. It's about who we are, but it's also about who we choose to work with. Petal, you said in the chat, depends on whether you're black or white. Now, obviously, in the context of this conversation, black or white could have a couple of meanings. So what did you mean by that?
It's something that I've spoken about over the years with colleagues, that it does seem that white people are generally allowed to make mistakes, and black people can have one mistake and that's it. It's like it kind of plays into the idea of being unreliable, which is kind of already there.
Yeah. So interesting. So yeah, whatever people already think you are, diminishes your chance to make mistakes in that area. So if they think you're always, whatever they think you are always, then you only need to give them a very tiny bit of ammunition to make them think that is the case. Totally get that. Totally get that. So I would just like each of you to be really honest with yourselves right now. I would like you to think about maybe just 3 areas of your life. So think about your work colleagues currently. Think about your family and think about your friendship group. So we've got 3 distinct groups in our lives. Of course, there are more, but let's just for now think about colleagues, family members, and friends. And I would like each of you to put a percentage on how much you think your family, your friends, your colleagues can count on you, to hold their safety net, can count on you to be your word, can count on you to always do what you say you'll do when you say you'll do it, or to let them know in plenty of time. And when you think about the answers for those 3 numbers, think honestly about what they would say. Your kids, your partner, your boss, your colleagues, your friends. If they had to put a number on how much can I count on you, what would the percentage be? And I'm really not sure what the best way to do this would be for you to write it on a piece of paper and hold up the number, because then you can't be influenced by each other. And even in the chat room, you probably will look at the number above you and the number below you. But maybe we trust each other enough in this space to be our word. Maybe that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to trust you to read the number that you've written down in front of you for each of these, and I just want to share it with the group. So when you've finished and you've written 3 numbers, just put your hand up, and when everyone's put their hand up and has the 3 numbers in front of them, we'll start with work, we'll then do family, and we'll then do friends. Okay. Has everyone done the 3 numbers? Okay, well, Emma, thanks for writing it down. I can't see yours quite yet, but we'll go around. Starting with Sidra, what are your three numbers for work, family, and friends?
Okay, so work is 90, family is 95, friends is 90.
Okay. Jay? Jay Francis.
I've got work 95%, family 95%, and friends 90%.
90% can count on you. Okay. Sufyan.
I said work 90, family 80, and friends 90.
Okay. D.
Roughly 95% is because if my family need me at the same time, these don't need me, then they're losing 5%. Do you know what I mean?
I can't see who's talking, sorry. Is that Sufyan?
That was Freddie. It was Freddie.
Freddie, okay. D, what are your three numbers?
I'd say work 95%, only because there's always a degree of margin of external events that fill the 5%, which is outside your control. I'd say friends is 90%, and I'd say family is probably 80%.
Okay. Freddie?
Freddie spoke.
So yeah, I'm saying family is 100%, friends and work are 95% for me.
Okay. Tamara?
I did work 100%, family 98, and then friends 80.
Okay. Dave?
So I put colleagues 95%, family 85%, and friends 80%.
Okay. Kiz?
I put family about 45%, work 95%, and friends about 75, 80.
Okay. Jacqueline?
I put work 90, family 100, and friends 90%.
Okay. Tracy?
Colleagues 90, family 90, friends 80.
Stephanie?
Work 95, family 100, friends 100.
Interesting. Thank you. I mean, we noticed we haven't had, as far as I can tell, any hundreds until you. So it'll be interesting to look at what that 100 looks like and how it's different from 95. We'll come back to that. Luti, are you able to contribute?
Yes, long time no speak. I put 75s across all three of them. I think friends might be higher, but it's all relative to the level of demands. Have a high level of demands from work, pretty high level of demands from family, pretty low level of demands to my friends. So friends is easy, work is impossible, family is.
So this is the degree. Remember, this, the question we're answering now is the degree of being my word and being able to be counted on by those different groups. So 75, 75, 75 for you. Thank you for that honesty. Emma, are you able to contribute?
Yeah, I'm going to try and unmute, excuse me. It's really hard to sit here quietly on a session like this, especially since I put 100% for all friends, colleagues and family. That's what I would give myself. But I think for them, my colleague would say 100%, my family would be 100%, but my friends would say 70.
Okay. Well, it's really interesting for those of you who have put 100 to look at what the difference is. And we'll come to that in a moment. Jay Davison is here twice. I don't know if she wants to, if you'd like to contribute, Jay, to what your three numbers are.
Here twice because I was just helping, sorry, let me just come off that one.
Got it.
I was just helping someone who was having trouble on their phone to access the chat. And so I went on my phone to show them. Okay, so I have put family 95, colleagues 90, friends 80.
Okay. Brilliant. And Chelsea, are you able to contribute?
Chelsea's our intern.
Okay, Jason.
She can know, but it would be good. I'd like to hear her contribute if you don't mind. If
Yeah, I
that's
bet you would. You're her boss, right?
I was taking notes when Jay was talking as well.
Yeah. I mean, we'll come to that in a moment. Okay.
Chelsea, ready.
What are your numbers, Chelsea?
Work 80%, friends 90%, family 90%.
Okay, thank you. Jason, I don't know if you can share your numbers.
Hey guys, sorry, I'm just navigating a lot of noise in the back. So I'd say work takes over my entire life at the moment, so it's 100%. I'd say 90% family, because work gets in the way, and then 80% again with friends, because I missed the broken promises.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So this is the degree to which other people can count on me 100% of the time, 95% of the time. In your case, 100, 90, and 80. And Chantal, are you able to contribute?
Yes, I can. I would say work 80, friends 90, and family 95.
Okay. I mean, you would have thought you were comparing numbers because your numbers were all really similar, right? And
Can I say my numbers?
Oh, Simone, you can.
Yeah, please. I was going to say that work 20%. Imagine I said that to you guys. That my work, I only contribute, I commit only 20%.
But what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say 20% season. I would like to say 100% in terms of my work. I say 100% in terms of my family, and probably I could do a lot better, but probably about 80, 85% with my friends.
Okay. I mean, it's really, really interesting, I think, how there were only a few people who gave hundreds to anything. Now, those of you who gave 100, maybe we'll pick it up with you, Stephanie, because I think you were the first who had 100. What is the difference between the area where you give 100 and the areas where you give 95?
I think that I would put my family above work if it came down to it. So that's why I would reduce the work one, because that's where I would let them down if need be.
Well, so what I was asking you was whether your colleagues, family, or friends could count on you, and to what extent. You said your friends, your family could count on you 100. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So are you saying your family can count on you all the time, but your friends and colleagues can only count on you 95% of the time?
I'd say my friends 100% as well.
You did say 100. Okay. So your family and your friends can count on you 100% of the time. What does that look like to them?
It just means I don't overpromise anything. So I think it doesn't mean I'm just there all the time. It just means I can keep my word 100% of the time. So they would know that I can be busy with work. So wouldn't like let them down. I would be like, listen, I've got, my life in TV is a bit precarious. So therefore, they kind of understand, or at least I've told them how it can be.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So, remember how we were defining what being your word looks like, that it's not just, and you picked up on this, it's not just about doing everything for somebody. It's about only doing what you say you'll do when you say you'll do it. It's not about being 100% committed to work, is not about being there 100% of the time, obviously, right? It's not even about putting them first all of the time either, obviously. What being 100% committed to somebody looks like is that I always only say what I will do when I will do it. And if I can't, I'll let you know. So I never will tell you I can do something if I can't. And I'll always tell you I can't do it if I can't. And I will always commit to delivering something when I say I'll do it, when I say I will. So the fact that you can be that person for your family, and you can be that person for your friends without, as you said, with your friends, like it's not about being there 100% of the time. It's just about, you still give yourself 100%, but you didn't give that to yourself at work. And I'm kind of curious why.
Because I think that people don't want to think that you're a liability. So I think you probably don't outline everything as much, because you want to not pretend, but you aim to be there all the time. But then also, even if you did outline everything that is a better priority for you, like your son or whatever, there's always going to be unexpected things, I think. So obviously I've talked about my health before, so something like that might be unexpected, and people on TV also don't hear it. So that's why I think you could let them down sometimes.
Well, you see, I think you can really only let people down if you're not your word. So like with your health issues, which you shared with us last time, if I know about them and I know that you'll let me know if you have a health issue, then I can count on you. If I don't know about it, or I can't count on you to tell me about it, then I could have a problem, because at the last minute you might not be there or whatever. But being your word is not about being present 100% of the time. And it's not about prioritizing that person 100% of the time. Being your word around when, where, always is just about that. So in the same way that you can be your word for your friends without jeopardizing your love of your family, you can also be that at work. It just means saying, I have this condition, I have that condition, I have the other condition, and work is my 100% priority while I'm at work, but there are these issues which sometimes come up, and I'm telling you about them now so that we can plan around them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so if that's what commitment looks like doing what you say you'll do, when you say you'll do it, and letting people know if you can't. When we say we're 100% committed, I guess that's what that means, right? If I'm 100%.
Sorry, Remy, I've got Luty with a question.
Yeah.
Luty, do you want to say something?
Oh, yes, please. Thank you, Jay. I'm totally hearing you, Remy, and I think there's something I really appreciate in being honest and forthcoming with what you are and aren't available to do. I gave myself quite low scores, and it's because I find myself in a position where I receive in any given day like hundreds of emails. It's not physically possible to read them all. It's not necessarily possible for one assistant to be able to even read and comprehend and know which emails even to prioritize. And so it becomes a thing where I have an ability to skim read just the subjects of the emails and reply to the most important ones. And those are the ones that's going to get a reply. Same thing with being a single parent dad, pick up my kids at 3:15, and I have work that goes on till midnight. I'm going to be in and out of paying attention, paying focus when they say, oh, Dad, can I have a play date with so-and-so? We want to go to the park, blah, 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 blah. And so I'm juggling between writing an email, responding to them. And a lot of the time I can be like, son, I'm writing an email right now. Could you ask me that question later? And a lot of the time I just have to kind of juggle and bounce. And inevitably, there are emails that slip through the cracks. There are requests for things. Oh, could you iron my school shirt or whatever, that might get slipped through the crack amongst the tidal wave of responsibilities. And so, and I've thought about, okay, should I put something on my email signature, like a permanent auto response, which just says, oh, I may take a while to get back to your email, but like there's no catch-all phrase that's appropriate, or that I would even want certain clients to read, that, oh, I respond to a few emails, call me if it's important. It's just, I've just kind of developed a system of prioritizing, and some people have to wait, and some people have to ask 3 times. And that's just what it takes to, if I know it's serious enough, to get my attention for me to put my focus on it.
And where is the cost?
The cost is in every now and again a big important email slipping through the cracks. The cost in sometimes the little people or the little opportunities or the medium things or the things that don't have shining lights, which are actually diamonds in the rough being lost. But
okay, so you're talking about the cost of, God forbid, you not reading your emails or prioritizing your emails. So, I mean, I asked you about colleagues, family, and friends. maybe I should have had a separate category in your case for email. So how much can people who email you count on you to respond? It's not quite the same as integrity, but like, what's your percentage there? Like, if I send an email to Luti, how much can I count on him to come back to me in a couple of days?
It depends who you are, but I would say in the 20 to 30%. About 10% of my emails get replies. About 50% of them deserve replies. About 30% of them will get replies.
I mean, I don't want to spend too long on a particular person's issues, because although maybe other people can relate to this, but
at least one said that it related to them too. Remy is just saying in the chat.
I mean, look, what's on our phone is a demand. It's as real to us as someone who's in the office or a child who is crying. So the demands of our screen are real. At the same time, at the end of every email is a person, and in this case, probably mostly work people on your screen. Is that what we're talking about mostly?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't and won't name drop my clients, but I have clients who I suspect are every bit as important, as influential as you, and I haven't really had this as a problem before, but it feels like the cost to you is in the 75% scores that you've given yourself, because you've given those, I'm sure, quite realistically, or maybe not, maybe they're lower. But if you think you're a 75, generally whatever we think we are, where other people think we're a little bit lower. So if you think you're a 75, your friends might think you're a 60. I don't know what your kid would think. By the sounds of how many emails you have, your kid might not give you 75. I don't know. But kids can be a little unforgiving. In any case, I would say the cost of this anxiety around responding to emails and whatever is drawing you away from being your word in other areas is quite a great cost. Because, so here's the thing, if commitment is about being your word, doing what you say you'll do when you say you'll do it, how committed would each of you say you are to the most important person in your life? Bearing in mind, only 3 or 4 of you gave 100% to anything in terms of any area of your life where you could be counted on to be your word, to do what you said you'll do when you say you'll do it. Only a few gave 100s, but to the most important person in your life, your significant other, your partner, your child, how committed are you as a percentage? Just let's quickly go around. So Luti, you gave yourself 75% scores on those, but how committed are you to the most important person in your life? Out of 100, Luti.
It depends how I'm doing the maths, right? I've got 3 kids. I'd say they're the most important. So can I count those as one person?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I would say.
How committed?
95.
95.
95 to 98%. Yeah.
Okay, 95 to 98. Simone?
100 all the time.
Feel it? A petal?
100.
Sidra? Can't hear you.
100% to my kids.
Yeah. Jay?
100%.
Yeah. Sufyan?
100%.
D?
I'd say 90% to me.
You're the most important person to yourself, and you commit 90% to yourself.
Yeah.
And to the next most important person in your life, what would be the percentage be?
I would probably say 85.
Okay. I mean, I really love that you mentioned you, because of course we are the most important person to ourselves, and I'd be really interested to know how much we're committed to ourselves, but thank you for sharing that, Dee. Freddie, to the most important person in your life, what's the percentage that you would say you're committed?
I'd say 95%, if I'm honest. 95.
95.
Yeah.
Tamara?
98.
98. Dave?
95.
Kiz?
I'd say about 90. Yeah.
90. Jacqueline?
I'd say 100% to my family.
Okay. Tracy?
100%.
Stephanie?
Is this in the sense of like we were talking before, like 100% committing your word type of thing, or how much you actually committed to that person?
Well, this isn't about what they would say about you. This is just about where you stand. So your commitment is total, right?
I think
and
I'd like to say 100, but maybe it is actually a bit less if I'm.
Okay, so I mean, when you think about the most important person in your life, I agree with Lucy. If you've got kids, it's hard to divide, but like treat them as one. But like, who are you thinking of?
Like my husband and son.
Your husband. And so you'd like to say 100, but what is it?
Like 90, 93.
90. Okay.
This recording's
Jay,
not going anywhere, is it?
No, of course not. Jay?
Family and
A person.
a person.
Percentage.
100%.
Emma?
100, my children. And my
Chantal?
love.
Chantal? Thank you.
100.
Okay. Chelsea? Quite low scores earlier when you're looking at the three groups, but what is the percentage to the most important person in your life apart from you?
100 to my mother.
Got it. Jason, if you're able to join us.
100 to my kids.
Okay. So I don't know if when you gave 100 to the most important person in your life, you were also thinking of the people who you might not have given that to. If you're giving it 100 to your kids, are you also giving 100 to your partner? If you're giving 100 to your partner, are you also giving it to your kids? But bearing in mind that very few people gave high numbers around how dependable they were in other areas of their life, I just want you to imagine that the most important person in your life, for the sake of this conversation, you know, your partner or your significant other, perhaps, if you have one. Children are always complex. But the most important person in your life said to you, I just want you to know, my darling, I'm 95.5% committed to you. I mean, it's a high number. Would they be delighted?
No.
97 3/4. How about that? That's better. Right? I'm 97 3/4% committed to you and our relationship. Does that make your heart sing? No? I'm 99% committed to you. How about that? No, it's just shit, right? Because all you're thinking about is the 1% not. And by the way, you don't even need to say it. They know it anyway. They know it anyway. She's pretty much committed, but there's a little, if you're 100% committed, it looks different. It feels different. When you were talking about being 100% in one area of your life and not in the others, you knew what the difference was around the trust that existed with those friends or family members, around the trust that existed with your colleagues or boss. It's the same with your partner. If you are 100% committed and your commitment is to always be your word, which means letting people know exactly where you stand, where you'll be, when you say you'll be, being 100% dependable, being 100% there with that safety net to catch your partner or your boss or your best friend if they fall, 100% of the time. 100% is very, very, very different in how it feels and how it occurs between you and that other person than any other number. And quite frankly, if I'm doing a high wire act, I don't really, the difference between someone saying I'm 73% committed or 93% committed is not much of a difference. Either you're 100% committed or I really don't want you on my team. And because in TV, it often is quite high stakes and high adrenaline, and it does feel a bit life and death if you're running a production company. It is a little bit moment to moment. The kind of people who we want around us, the kind of people who you deserve to have around us, really have to be people who are 100% committed. But there's no way they will be if you're not. If you're running a show or you're running a company and you're not 100% committed, you won't attract people who are either. So it's a completely, being 100% committed to somebody, to something, to a project is transformational. In exactly the same way that if I say to you, I'm 100% committed to our relationship, that leaves you feeling safe, and that leaves you feeling great, and that leaves you feeling like, what's next? That's so different from saying I'm 97 3/4 committed. You can count on me 96% of the time, roughly. It's a binary thing with us, right? So this also is true of projects, because projects involve people. So I'd like you to think at the moment of a project that is really dear to you, something that is really important to you. So if you run a company, it's a program. If you work for someone else, it's a project. Think of a project or a program, something in your life. It doesn't have to be at work, but something that is in your future, on your plate right now, that is really important to you. Just put your hand up when you have that project in mind. Okay, pretty much everyone seems to have a project in mind. Yeah, great. Does everyone remember the distinction between being committed and being attached? Would someone who remembers it like to explain it to all of us so that we're refreshed on that? Because I'm not talking about being attached now. I'm talking about being committed. This is a project that is important to you and that you believe in and that you're committed to, and we'll try and take the attachment out of it. So who can explain the difference between being 100% committed and being attached? Dee?
Yeah, so 100% committed. Well, the attachment bit is not personalizing it. So if it fails, if something goes wrong, it's nothing to do with, it's nothing personal. It's not an attack on me. It's taking yourself out of the equation and separating the two, but still being committed enough to execute what you need to do.
Yeah, so I can give everything to something. I can do my best all the time. I can be my word. I can show up. I can, in the case of, Sidra's example, I can deliver my 3 new ideas by Friday every week. And that's 100% committed. But whether my boss says these ideas are wonderful or my boss says these ideas are shit, I don't take it personally, because I was my word, I did my best. So being attached is when I make it about me, when I make it about my ego. If you say yes to this idea, then I'm amazing and I'm extraordinary and I'm wonderful. And if you say no to this idea, then I'm useless and I'm worthless and I'm shit. That's being attached in the extreme. So I'm not talking about being attached with these projects. I'm just talking about committed. Like, these are all things you're thinking about now, each of you, that you would love to make happen. You would love to see through. You would love to realize. You'd love to manifest. Yeah?
It's so difficult though, isn't it, Remy? Like, so, it's difficult when they say, give us 3 ideas, and you go, here you go. And they go, they're dreadful. I mean, it's difficult to not be attached or feel.
Well, first of all, has someone said they're dreadful?
No.
No, okay. So you made that up?
Yes.
Okay. Secondly, how easy would it be, Sidra, if you had 3 ideas. I said, I think they're dreadful. And you went, oh, okay, I get that. I mean, I have an opinion. It's just my opinion. I think they're dreadful. I don't think you're dreadful. I think these ideas are dreadful. It's my opinion. You might think they're wonderful, or you might agree they're dreadful. You might go, you know what? I really did my best, but I kind of think they're dreadful too. And it's nothing to do, because the ideas are the ideas. When we're not attached, there's a lightness that's possible. And that lightness is even more possible when I'm 100% committed and 0% attached. Think how incredible it would be for each of you to go through life being 100% committed and 0 attached.
Brilliant.
But I asked Jay and Simone before we went into this session whether we had covered attachment, and they said we had. And Dee, you've captured it well. Is everyone else, just for now, clear on the distinction between being committed, which is being my word, giving it everything, doing what I say I'll do, when I say I'll do it, preferably being 100% committed? The difference between that and making it about me, being attached. Yeah. I mean, this is tricky. You know, I coach artists and writers and sculptors, and for them, of course, there's a big part of it, which is like, well, that's my work. Of course, I'm attached to it. It is me. It is me. That painting on the wall is me. I put myself into it. It's me. That play that I wrote is my play. It's my experience. It is me. But the truth is, your ideas, your proposals are not you. They come from you. They come through you. But they're not you. And to be successful is to model yourself on Damien Hirst as an artist rather than someone who makes every little thing they make a big deal about them. It's like what we're doing, what we're creating is a product or a service, and we put ourselves into it, but it's not us. It has to exist separately. That's the difference between great art and self-indulgent art. You have to be able to look at it and impartially and edit it, right? So even for great artists, being able to say, that's my work and it's dreadful, tear it up, throw it in the bin, start again, is really important. They're not throwing themselves away. They're just saying, this work, I put everything into it, didn't work out, start again. So we've looked at that number in terms of our commitment to other people. I would be really curious to know how committed each of you is to yourself. And bear in mind that it's only the number that you say it is. You can say you're 90% committed and that becomes the number. Or you can say, I have been 90% committed until today, and going forward, I'm 100% committed to myself. And you can just notice what the difference is in terms of the actions that you take, the way you communicate, how you go out in the world. Just saying, I'm 100% committed. So Dee said she was, I think it was 90% committed to yourself. Was that right, Dee? Or was it less?
It was 95.
95. Okay. And so, you know, we might go, oh, well done, amazing. But actually, what would it take, Dee, for you to be 100% committed to yourself?
If you'd asked me this question maybe 2 years ago, it would have been less.
Yeah,
It's
so it's
only
now
because,
95. So to make it
yeah.
100, I'm asking you today, what would it take to make it 100?
I need to change my mindset on a few things. Block out some time, be a bit more sophisticated with my time to be able to do the things that I can get that 5%, and not make excuses for the lack of the 5%.
See, I think you're complicating things too much. Remember how commitment looked like to us when we were thinking about the people in our lives who we wanted to count on, and we were saying, what would it take for us to be able to count on someone? And I think we kind of all came to an agreement that it was about doing what we said we do when we said we do it. So I think being 100% committed to myself just looks like doing what I say I'll do for myself when I say I'll do it. If I say I'll go to the gym 3 times a week, going. If I say I'll pick up my kids at 3 o'clock, whatever it is we're doing for ourselves, doing it.
Pearl, does that answer the question?
It does. Yeah.
What was the question?
What does it mean being committed to yourself?
It means exactly what it means to anyone else. Showing up for yourself when you say you'll show up. So remember we talked a lot about the distinction between our intentional self, that the CEO of Petal Inc. who sits 1 floor above you and makes plans and sets goals and creates intentions, and the other voices in our head, the multiple, your traumatized child, age 7, your saboteur voice that says, no, you can't, it won't work, don't even try it, why bother? You went to the gym before and you gave up after a month. So staying true to your intentional self, delivering on your promises that your intentional self made, not giving in to those other voices, that is what being 100% committed to yourself looks like. Being committed to the part of you that makes lists, set goals, sets intentions. If you set an intention and keep to it, that's being 100% committed to yourself. Not setting intentions for yourself, not setting goals for yourself is not being committed to yourself. Because if you think of yourself like you would your best friend, you would want Petal, your best friend Petal, to live up to her possibility. You'd want Petal, your best friend, to live up to her potential. You would want Petal, your best friend, to be joyous and self-expressed and fulfilled. And so you would do everything you could to encourage her to do those things, be in those places, meet those people, in order for her to have as glorious a life as you know she's capable of having. So setting intentions, setting goals, making plans is all part of being committed to yourself. Keeping those plans, staying on track with those intentions is about your commitment.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. We can fall behind in individual commitments, and we will do all the time, and it doesn't affect our commitment to us. So you can be 100% committed to yourself, and you can not go to the gym 3 times next week, and that doesn't change the fact that you're 100% committed to yourself. All it means is that you failed in 1 intention or 2 intentions. You can fail in little commitments to yourself and still be 100% committed. But it's a little different than the examples with other people, because like Dee was saying, with other people, they really need the heads up and they need warning and they need to know. If you're going to not deliver on your commitment and not be your word with other people, you need to tell them that. Whereas with yourself, because it's the voices in your head you're working with, they don't give you that heads up. They don't give you that notice. So you just have to, with yourself, just recommit. You can't say, oh, Petal, I'm not going to go to the gym on Thursday when I promised I would, but it's okay. If you don't go, it's because some part of you made something else a priority and you failed in that intention. But it doesn't change the fact that you're 100% committed to yourself. And just walking through life being 100% committed to yourself, 100% committed to your partner. And this is the part that, of course, I should have led with, but in a way, it only makes sense once you've looked at those other areas of your life. Just think about in a work situation, like some of you own companies. I noticed, Simone making a joke about Jay and other people's responses, like who work with her. Dave, you run a company. Anyone else? Luti, you run a company. Anyone else run a company? Tamara, yeah. How do you feel when?
Oh, Jason as well.
Jason as well. Employees, people who you are paying, people who are on your payroll, people who you've entrusted your hard-earned money on productions to, people who your business counts on for survival, when they are emanating a sense of, oh, I'm 93% committed to this. I'm 95%, I'm 75% committed. How does that make you feel? Anyone? anyone who's in that situation of having employees or having people work for you who you pay, and they're giving off a sense of, oh, I'm 93% committed.
Can I just chip in there?
Yeah, please do, Dave.
I mean, it's about. I'm a bit infuriated by it. Sometimes.
Infuriated by it. Yeah, yeah. Rightly so. Rightly so. You're prioritizing them. You're making sacrifices for them. You're 100% committed to your company's success, if you are, and you're making choices based on paying them next month, which affect everyone, including you. And they're 92% committed. It's like, it's infuriating. And anybody, and including, I've been in this situation, will tell you it's just infuriating. So who are the people who you want to promote, who you want to support, who you want to give more responsibility to tomorrow?
You say who?
Yeah, who? Who are the people who you have worked with, who you have felt, I want to support you more, I want to give you more responsibility, I want to have you around more?
Could be anyone from senior.
No. In the context of this conversation.
No, it's in the context. It's just I just wasn't naming anybody's name.
No. What I mean is it the people who are committed 93%?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so you're 100% committed to people who are 93% committed to you.
I would say so. In the sense of work, I would say so, because I'm committed to work.
Well, okay, so maybe I haven't explained this well, and in that case, I apologize. But my experience of running a company is that the people who I gave responsibility to, the people who I entrusted with more, the people who I was keen to promote and have around, and the people who I would keep in pretty much any circumstance were the people who I knew I could count on 100%. And they were the people who were 100% committed. Now, that didn't mean that they had starving children at home who had no clothes on. It didn't mean that they had parents who were in care homes they weren't looking up. Didn't mean any of that. It just meant that they did what they said they would do when they said they would do it. And I could count on them 100% of the time. And they emanated the energy that I was emanating to them, that they were 100% committed to me and I was 100% committed to them. Didn't mean they would never leave. It didn't mean that they would never get another opportunity. But while they were there, I had the feeling from them that they were 100% committed. And that was that in my experience is who company founders, company owners, CEOs, bosses, heads of department promote and stick with, because there's something magical about the energy of commitment. When someone is committed to you, they may not be the smartest person, they may not be the most experienced person, but if you can count on them 100% of the time, that is worth a lot. So, Dee?
Yeah, I just want to totally second that, because it's so important. You can, what most of our roles we can teach, the skill sets we can teach, but what we can't teach is commitment, is something ingrained in people that are really, really, I find hard to find in people. It's really, really hard to find it until you've recruited somebody and later find out actually the impetus is no longer there, or it wasn't there. It was all like it's just a mask in the interview, or it's I think it's really hard to find those people. And it's a small percentage of people that actually are the cream of the crop that actually rise to the top.
And you're saying most of they rise to the top. So, I mean, those of you who don't know Dee is running a production company which has grown from nothing to a turnover this year of what, 4.5-5 million?
No, this year it's 2.2.
2.2, okay, but it's great. to 2.2 in 2 years, and so you're counting a lot of people to help you with that growth.
Yes.
And you're seconding what I would say is, in my experience, incontrovertible. We promote and support the people who we can count on 100%. 90% really doesn't cut it. Because
No, and
you're thinking about with the 90% is the 10% when you can't count on them. And can we really afford to have people around us who we can't count on 10% of the time? 90% sounds great until you're thinking about, are they going to be there when I'm doing my high wire act holding the safety net? Oh, 10% of the time they're not. I'm not going to promote that person. Have I explained it better tomorrow? Does that make, or are you still where you're at? Or have you shifted because I've explained it a little better?
No, I think I understand it a bit better.
Okay. So I guess the moral of this very long story is just that being 100% committed to ourselves, being 100% committed to our projects, being 100% committed to our companies, whether we own them or whether someone else does, being 100% committed to our colleagues and our founder is transformational. And it doesn't mean that we're there 100% of the time. And it absolutely certainly doesn't mean that we make it all about us. The opposite. It just means that we are 100% committed to being our word, to doing what we say we'll do, when we say we'll do it with that person, and being clear about when we can't, which is as important as the first bit. So it's not just about showing up, it's also about being really clear when we can't show up.
Rem,
yeah.
Sidra could ask herself, but she's made the comment about what if you feel like an outsider? So you know, all that commitment is great, but you still feel like an outsider. Maybe so if it's in a work setting, you're showing up and being 100% committed in that environment, and you may not feel like they're committed to you, or you feel like an outsider. What's the response to that?
Well, when did you last give 100% at work? So when did you last feel like you were 100% committed to your colleagues and to the project you worked on and to the company? So that if I'd said to your colleagues or your boss at the time, how committed will you say Sidra is in the situation that you'll be thinking about, they'd have said, oh, 100% committed. When was that? Doesn't matter if it was 100 years ago, when was it?
It was quite recently when I was doing that Denise Van Outen project.
So who would have said you were 100% committed?
Well, it was a tricky one because the exec wanted to be 100% committed, except that a massive Amazon project happened. And so she was kind of sucked into that.
So she wasn't 100% committed, but you were?
Yes, I believe I was, yeah.
Okay, and did you feel like an outsider on that project?
No, not on that project. It
okay,
was
so what the point is that I'm making is that try it and then come back to me. Because if you were 100% committed to your colleagues and the project and you still felt like an outsider, come back to me. Let's talk then. I think we feel like outsiders when we are outsiders. And when you're 100% committed to something, you can't really be an outsider. Now, there may be exceptions that prove me wrong, in which case don't work for that company. But if you are able to commit 100%, I think the voice in our head says we're an outsider. But when you're 100% committed, the voice in your head doesn't have much space to say you're an outsider. If you're always your word, you follow through with action, you do what you say you'll do, you're clear about when you can't, and you still feel like an outsider, I'll have a special free session with you. And we can just talk about that.
Wow, that's an offer.
Thank you.
That's an offer. That's an offer. Do you know what I mean? And I suppose that if you still feel like an outsider, then there's a question. I don't know if you was at the Remy talk, but where you should hope, you know, if you're committed to yourself, 100% committed to yourself, you wouldn't stay in that environment.
Right.
Also, something to consider.
Totally.
Sorry, what did you just say, Simone?
If you're 100% committed to yourself,
yeah,
you wouldn't stay in an environment, in that environment.
Where you felt like an outsider.
Yeah.
Yeah. But part of what makes us feel like an outsider is the voice in our head. So in many situations, there are some situations where it's the other people, and in some situations it's me, right? So I can feel like an outsider without anyone doing anything to make me feel like an outsider. I still feel like an outsider. But I'm saying when I'm 100% committed to whatever it is I'm doing, I think the chances of that happening are much, much less. Because there is something transformational about being all in. You've heard it from me, you've heard it from Dave, you've heard it from Tamara, you've heard it from Dee, you've seen it yourself, right? When someone is all in, you just feel differently towards them. When your partner says, I'm 100% committed to you, something happens. And anything less than that, even if it's 99.7%, all we focus on is where they're not committed. And also, we're focused on that ourselves. So I would just go forward into life thinking about what would it take for me to be 100% committed to whatever it is. Like in the areas of your life where you gave it 70%, like some of you may have thought, well, I've given friends 80% because family and work are more important to me and something has to go. But you can be 100% committed to your friends, 100% committed to your family, and 100% committed to work. And it doesn't mean you're in 3 places at once. And it doesn't mean that you're run ragged. It just means that everybody knows exactly where they stand with you because you're really clear and that you're doing your best in every situation. You're giving the most that you can give to your friends, but you're saying when you can't. That's 100% committed. You're giving everything you can to your family, but you're saying when you can't. That being 100% committed as a parent isn't doing everything your kid wants and giving it everything it asks for. It's just being there, being your word, doing what you say you'll do when you say you'll do it, having them be able to count on you, and setting boundaries for yourself, setting boundaries for your family, setting boundaries for your colleague is part of being your word. It's part of being committed. So it's just like saying, you know, if I love my work 100%, then I don't have any love left for my family or my friends. No, I can totally love my work and totally love my family and totally love my friends. So going forward, I think the question for each of us has to be, what would it take to be 100% committed to the important relationships in my life? And because this is breakthrough leaders, not breakthrough fathers or breakthrough children, I think just asking yourself, what would it take for me to be 100% committed to this project, to this boss, to this person, to this company? Because none of you are that far off, right? Luti was 75 in some cases, which you might argue he can allow himself to be because he owns the company. It's another conversation. I would say whether you own the company or whether you are a runner in the company, which I appreciate none of you are, obviously, but whether you own the company or you're a runner in your company, being 100% committed is transformational. So looking at what it would take to bring you from 90% to 100% and doing it, giving it, is my question for you. I'm going to just share with you why I think it is that we sometimes don't give 100%, because I think that's probably important. I know we've only got 3 minutes, so I'm not going to throw it over to you, but I'm going to just tell you why I sometimes don't commit 100%. Committing 90% to something builds in an insurance policy. Anything less than 100% is my insurance policy against failure, right? So if I commit to my partner 97%, that gives me a 3% margin for failure, which I feel I need. Now, in reality, I don't need it, but I feel I need it, because then if they walk out or the relationship fails, I will always know that I didn't give it 100%. And in my mind, I'll think, well, you know, maybe it's because I only gave it 97%. If at work, Sidra, you're giving it 90% and they sack you tomorrow, your voice in your head will be like, well, I did only give it 90%. You know, it probably would have been different if I'd given it 100%, but I never gave it 100%. If you give something 100% and it fails, you've got nowhere to hide. If you give a project 100% and they say, no, but nowhere to hide. If you give your boss 100%, if you give your partner 100% and it doesn't work out, you have nowhere to hide. But the flip side of it is, the chances of that project, that relationship, that partnership, that friendship becoming extraordinary only exist if you do give it 100%. And so the chances of you being fired tomorrow if you give something 100%, or your partner walking out if you give them 100%, the chances of that happening are so much less, so much less. But of course, if you give it 100% and because it's always about the other person, they still might think your ideas are ghastly and you're giving it 100%. And that's up to them. You might give 100% to your relationship at work and they still might say it's not working out. And you will have known you've given it your best. And there's a good part of that, which is, I know I did my best. I know I gave 100%, but the slightly scary part is I've got nowhere to hide because I gave it my best and it still didn't work out. And I think we would all rather be in that place, right? Of saying, I gave it 100%, I did my best, I gave everything and it didn't work out, rather than in the place of, well, you know, it probably didn't work out because I only gave it 90%. If you give something 90%, you have no right to expect anything. Just think about your partner saying to you, I'm 90% committed. You just go, fuck off. But we give 90% in all these different areas of our life and we expect it to be 100% return. You have no right to get 100% return if you don't put in 100%. And it's a strange correlation because it's like only 100% creates that magic. 93% doesn't create that magic. Every boss you've ever had will tell you that. So I would encourage you to just ask yourself, what would it take to give 100% to whatever it is you want to succeed? And then let me know what happens. It's scary to do it in every area at once. But if there's something you really would like to have happen, if there's some area you'd like to transform, if there's some relationship that you would really like to transform, just try from today, giving that person, that relationship 100%. Sometimes it even helps to let them know. You know, up until yesterday, I can honestly say I was only 97% committed. And I looked at what was holding me back, and I'm now 100% committed. And I promise you, no one who you say that to will be surprised. They won't say to you, you might think they're going to say to you, oh, I thought you were 100% committed. I didn't know. No, they know. They'll be like, yeah, you know, something was holding you back. I did get that sense, but thank you for letting me know. To all of you who up until today wouldn't have given the most important person in your life 100%, tell them that. Say, I haven't been 100% committed to you until today, but I am. And they will go, well, thank you. Thank you. They won't go, oh, that's a surprise. I thought you were 100%. I hope it's been a useful session. It feels like it's been a long time on one topic, but I feel like we got somewhere together. Yes?
What's your fault? Everybody looks a little stunned, like, oh my God, what was Petal, because your mic's off. What's your
so resonates. It makes sense, doesn't it? It's like, yeah, where am I going to hide? Nowhere if I'm 100%.
Right.
All down to me then.
Yeah, and it's a scary place to be because it makes you feel really vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like that's why when Remy was talking about the relationship between attachment and commitment, do you now understand how they sit hand in hand? Because if you're not attached and you do give 100% and it still doesn't work out because you're not attached, you don't mind because you gave 100% and that's what I do because that's who I am, right? You see, if you made it about yourself, then if you don't and they say no, then you feel like, oh my God, it's about me. They don't like me. I'm bad. Do you understand? Do you see the relationship between that?
Yeah.
Dave, I can see you nodding. How does that resonate with you?
Yeah, absolutely. It all started clicking in about 20 minutes ago. It's funny how these things just start as a moment, a eureka moment where it starts to all make sense, these sessions. And I think that was electric. I mean, yeah, this is a new thing for me. 100% commitment now to a few things in my life. I'm going to give this a go. It makes so much sense, actually. And I can see how that little self-doubt, like you were talking about, I'm trying to get into going to the gym again. And I just need that guy in my head. I'm going to call him Remy. Remy in my head, keeping me straight, making sure I'm committed.
What I'm going to suggest we do for the week, for one whole week, is do a challenge. I'm going to post it on Mighty Networks, and I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to ask you guys, what area of your life are you going to give 100% commitment to? Just one area.
And it could be a relationship. It could be a relationship as well as an area. So it could be a project or a relationship. Yeah.
And then every day we're going to ask, how committed have you been today? And like Remy said, sometimes, like I've been trying to get to yoga, and I commit to myself that I'm going to go yoga every week, and I haven't been for the last 2 weeks, and I sit down and feel really bad, and then realize that I'm not a complete failure as a human being. Maybe just that intentional, I've got to recommit to that intention. So if you drop off, it's okay, but we just recommit, yeah? Dee, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say, it was our Honeybees 1,000 day last week, and we've had a lot of lessons learned in failures, consistency, commitment. But the thing that I want to pick up on here is failure isn't a bad thing. Every successful entrepreneur has failed 1,000,000 times before they've got to that success. And what we've been taught as society is failure is a bad thing. But actually it isn't. You know, we're going to fail. Majority of us are going to fail numerous times, but it's about consistency and maintaining that and the commitment applied to it. So long as you've got that, you're in the right trajectory.
Can I just add to that? One of the things that I'm learning is that in failure is where the lessons come from improvement. Because there's certain things that I wouldn't be aware of. I didn't even know I knew until that thing didn't go the way I thought it did, or it didn't work out. So actually failure is such a great learning tool. That's why, again, the commitment attachment distinction is so important. Because actually if it goes wrong and you sit down and say, oh my God, I'm really crap and so on and so forth, that's where it stops. But if you sit down and say, oh my God, it went wrong. Oh, what did I learn from that? It's a tool to expand, right? So every situation that doesn't work, it's a tool to expand, it's a tool to ask more, it's a tool to learn more. So it's such a healthy, you can't, you don't learn without failure, it's impossible. Yeah, so it's important to embrace that and understand that and lean into that so that you can be kind of freed of the kind of noise around failure. But anyway, I thought that.
So can I add to that as well, Simone? And sorry, Remy, just to add, because I think what I get when I don't do something, when I say I'm going to do it, it's then, and that failure, I attach myself to the failure, and that's just, I think, a human trait. And then I start telling a story about myself being the failure, and actually all I did was fail to do something. But then when you attach the failure to yourself, then that's when the shame comes, and I don't admit it, and it's all horrible and sticky and nasty because you've attached that thing to yourself and my identity. And so when you separate it and say, you know what, I can actually learn something from that, or I can actually clean it up, or I separate myself from the word failure, then I think it's quite empowering to learn from something not happening the way you wanted it to.
100%. And so, like Simone, to your example, you can be 100% committed to yourself and 100% committed to your fitness, and you can fail to go to the yoga class, and that doesn't change your commitment. We're not talking about stuff that happens on a granular level. We're talking about what is your commitment. Like with your being 100% committed to your partner doesn't mean that you're not going to ever let them down, disappoint them, make a mistake. No, it's a totally separate thing. So failing to do actions in the present which serve your commitment doesn't change your 100% commitment. But the question you have to ask is, what would I do or say differently if I was 100% committed?
Can I say something my partner said, Remy?
Say that again.
Remy, my partner said this to me, and I think Simone has said it to me as well, is that if I've not, and actually my learning about integrity and what you do, it's if you fail to do something, or you know you're going to fail to do something, you clear up your commitment or your integrity by putting something in place such that it doesn't happen again, because that shows that you're committed. So if you say to your friend, you know what, I said I was going to come to your birthday and I didn't come, And then I said, I'm going to come to dinner with you, but I didn't come. Or I failed to turn up at a child's birthday party and I said I was going to come. If you put something in place such that it doesn't happen again, so you put a note in your diary, or you RSVP, or you do something differently to the last time, then at least you're demonstrating your commitment by actually putting something in place, and you're actually doing something so it doesn't happen again. Then it shows that even though you failed to do what you said you were going to do, there's a commitment to transforming that.
Yeah, and that exists on so many levels. So what Dee was saying about failure is really important. But the thing is, failure and success start from the same place, which is risk. If I don't take a risk to commit totally to work, say, if I don't take a risk to deliver this proposal, I won't fail, but I won't succeed, right? So in order to succeed, you have to be prepared to fail, because not every risk we take results in a success. So that's why you have to be prepared to fail multiple times in order to succeed. If your commitment, Simone, is to your fitness and your well-being and your health, you have to fail multiple times at going to yoga and going to the gym in order to get to where you're going, because it's just part of the course, right? You can't create a path around 100% commitment, which results in 100% success. Commitment isn't about 100% success. It's about something that sits above that. So it exists where Jay was talking about, in that place where being 100% committed is that when I fail, I try again. Commitment isn't saying I'm 100% committed to success, and if I fail, I failed in my commitment. If you failed in going to your friend's birthday or the child's birthday or the dinner party, it's about, if you're committed to the friendship, you'll try again. You'll put a note in the diary. You'll make sure it doesn't happen again. You'll do your best to be there the next time. It's not about, doesn't exist in every transaction. It's not about being successful in everything you do. It's about trying as hard as you possibly can and not making it personal and trying again when you fail. Success is about trying again when you fail, getting up and doing it again.
Wow, thems are some big talking on a Wednesday afternoon. Mind slightly blown. I feel like I might need to lay down to go and process it. No, I'm joking, but I think that was quite sensational, and I'm sure that you guys didn't necessarily expect that when we talk about commitment. I thought you guys thought we were going to give you a bollocking about coming to sessions, which we weren't, but it was, I know that was in the back of your mind. It's like, is that where we're going? But I think that the understanding of how commitment plays in every area of your life is just so important. And obviously we expect to see you at next week's session, everybody at next week's session or next session. But more importantly, so we'll do that. Should we test that? Should we do a commitment challenge?
Yeah.
IT networks. Yeah. Let me get a hand if everyone's up for it. If not, I don't have to do it. Yeah. Wicked. And let's see, we will think about how we can test our commitment. But all you got to do is every day, just tell us on it, maybe even on a percentage scale, how we're doing on our commitment today. And at the end of the week, we can kind of have a look, and it'd be really interesting to hear your testimonies of how that was transformative or not by the end of the week, how that felt. That'd be fantastic.